All right, we are live. Sorry, we're a little late. Our wall started falling down behind us. I don't know if you guys know this, but we don't have a beautifully painted gray wall back here. We have a beautifully painted canvas that is duct taped to the wall back here, and the duct tape failed. So we had to quickly retape the wall.
I am shocked at how difficult it is to tape things to concrete and get them to stay. Like all of our offices at some place have something mounted to the wall and they just keep falling down.
Well, you know what's interesting is that it's not the concrete, it's the canvas. I've bought the most expensive hardcore duct tape and gaffer's tape, and it always unsticks from the canvas. It's always stuck to the concrete.
Is that what's happening to our scrims in the background too?
Yeah.
Those fall?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, this isn't like a photography channel about gaffing and about grip and
this is about
backdrops.
protesting and coronavirus, right?
Kind of.
This is the fewest video clips that we've had in a very long time. Maybe today will be a 1 hour long episode that
nice.
I've been hoping
Kinda
for
getting tired
a
of
while.
this.
Yeah. Anything like been on your mind recently? I was playing golf with a buddy of mine today. If I seem tired, that's why I went kiteboarding, swam, and then played golf, so I'm kind of dead right now. But every time we talked about coronavirus, he was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? That's over. Like, that's behind us now."
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean it's behind us now? And he's like, well, I'm not sure it was real to begin with, but now that, it's heating up outside,
magically is gone.
It's kind of like the flu. It's like the flu kind of disappears in the summertime. And I'm like, but it's been hot in Puerto Rico this whole time, first of all. Second of all, it's getting cold in the southern hemisphere, so why isn't it taking off there? So I don't know. I mean,
we were kind of talking about this an hour ago at dinner, and I feel the same way. I'm so confused on what in the world is going on. Because it's many countries. I mean, in America, we act like we're worried about the reopening. I mean, I think Fauci and people in the head of the CDC have come out. I didn't put any of those videos in here. It's just the same old thing, But they keep coming out and they're saying, we are worried America is not heeding our caution. Mm-hmm. And all of this outbreak is going to get worse because of, us not taking it seriously. But many, many countries, I think, is it Denmark? Other Nordic countries are reporting no new cases. We need to check the numbers and click these countries. Because they'll say there's no new cases for the third day in a row, but then when I check World of Meters, there are. But we keep hearing from more and more countries that things are looking better and things have stopped. And New Zealand or Taiwan haven't had cases in over a month now. And you're like, what? But then people like our friend that you play golf with, they're saying, oh, it's because it's warming up. Yet we're on the equator or near the equator. Yeah. Ecuador is on the equator. Right. Brazil is in the southern hemisphere and also near the equator in areas. All of these countries have been hit extremely hard. I mean, Puerto Rico hasn't, but Ecuador and Brazil and other places that are in different tropic zones and stuff. So I don't know what this narrative is at all. Yesterday was the first time I saw a video where somebody was saying, yeah, it's going to be seasonal and we're going to have to take vaccines multiple times a year. I haven't heard that at all. I thought they were saying this wouldn't be the seasonal thing, that this would be like a 1 or 2 year thing, one and done. It'll be extremely deadly, but then it'll go away like the flu of, 1918.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've been lied to, but I also want to stick to my guns and be like, no, this thing is still serious. Like, I've worked my way into believing this is serious, and now you're telling me it's not? I don't know what's going on.
Here's the other thing that I was thinking a lot about today. You remember all the people on social media just a couple weeks ago who were like, if I can save just one life, I am willing to stay inside my house for years, at the very least until the end of 2020.
Yeah.
Where are you now? I haven't seen a single post about the virus, period. Not just about like I'm a hero and I'm never going to go outside again so I can save all these lives. I haven't heard anything on social media about the coronavirus. I mean, it was like a light switch, man. A light switch went off and every post that was online went from coronavirus, we're all going to die, you can't go outside. If you go outside, you're saying F you to your neighbors, you're putting everyone at risk, why are you being so selfish? To the very next day, there's riots and there's looting and all this crazy stuff. Yeah. That's it. We'll never talk about coronavirus again?
Well, here's a conspiracy theory for you guys. Drink up. What if all of this was done because we already have all of this control in us? And the first test was, let's see, now that everyone's got the chips in them, let's see if we can make the world believe that there's a virus.
Wait, they got the chips in them?
Everyone's saying that like we have the chips in us and the 5G towers are controlling us.
No, we don't have the chips yet.
I'm saying, what if we already have them? What if you don't know this? What if you've been vaccinated for the last 5 or 10 years with the chips?
No, you were on a good path of a good, stupid conspiracy, and you ruined it. The conspiracy should be, this was the test run.
That's what I'm saying.
To see how big of sheep the American people are.
I'm saying we already are sheep. We're already being controlled.
You are, yeah. You're like, gotta get the face shield. Can't go outside. It's too scary outside.
I mean, you were like, I don't want to go to Japan. I'm definitely not. Let's cancel that trip. I don't know if I feel good about flying here and there.
I have not said that. I am ready to travel. I am ready to live life.
Well, now you are, but at the beginning.
All right. Oh, you want to look at these numbers real quick? So I've sorted these by new cases. And look, Brazil has now surpassed the United States.
Okay.
Brazil is in the southern hemisphere, so I would imagine Brazil is currently getting colder right now. So I don't know if that teaches us anything or not.
I mean, Brazil's huge, so I'm sure parts are getting colder and then other parts are more temperate. But
because
I wonder
is Brazil still relatively close to the equator?
I mean, Brazil's huge. It's like it runs north and south by many latitudes.
I understand, but so does the United States, but it still gets cold in the winter in Florida.
Yeah. Maybe that's why their numbers are going up, because it's getting colder. It was worse when it was cold.
Let's sort by deaths here. So look at that. Brazil, Mexico, number 2. United States, 1,000 deaths today. Let's look at yesterday.
That's still nuts, man. 1,000 a day? That's a lot of deaths.
I know. But it's over now. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
I say it's a lot of deaths, but what do I know? What if every day, what are drunk drivers every day? What if that's like 3,000 every day, and I'm just like not paying attention to that at all? It just
I don't think it's anywhere close to that, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you don't know how many people die. Like, I was looking at some chart, and I don't know if I can easily pull this up or not.
Well, because this was the other weird narrative. You know, I don't want to dismiss that hospitals have been overrun, and I don't want to dismiss the idea that you know, many people have died from this, but lots of people were saying, you look at the flu, and 60 or 80,000 people die of the flu, but that is over the course of a year. Mm-hmm. We are only a few months into it. If our numbers just taper off somehow, maybe we'll start to make that argument again. Like, we shut down the country. That's the other point I want to make. I don't want to undermine the idea that we shut down the country. So we slowed some deaths, surely, right? But we're getting to the point now where if coronavirus could be somehow gone, now you don't get to say coronavirus is going to kill millions of people through a whole year, because now it also has a season just like the flu, right? Does that make sense?
Sure. This chart, and I'm sure this is probably some Twitter chart, so I don't know if this is true or not.
You are all about the Twitter.
This isn't on Twitter, I'm just saying. This is like a social media thing people would share. But this chart has the average yearly probability of death per age that each individual has to die of every possible way of dying.
Share it with our audience?
I don't think I can eat. Well,
all you gotta do is put an apple.
It's not that simple.
It's not that simple, is it?
No, it's not that simple. Well, maybe I can show this. Let's see.
Do you think if we get everyone drunk quickly by talking about conspiracy theories that the show will be better for them?
Absolutely. All right, so let's see if I turn this sideways. All right, we're getting somewhere here. So you can see here the average yearly probability of death. I'm looking at this third column over. And if you look at our age, 30 to 39, we have a 0.1%, 0.16% chance of dying from all potential causes except for COVID-19. So every year for this decade, while we're 30 to 39 years old, each year we have a 0.16% chance of death. And then if you move over to the second column.
Man, look at that. If you live to 90, every year you have a 25% chance of dying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
at some
sense.
age, like at 100, it's got to get to 100, right? It's like 100% chance you will die by like 105, or some number.
Well, I
110.
get, once you reach the age of the oldest person to ever live,
Yeah.
statistically speaking, you have a 100% chance of dying after that. But basically, this chart is saying that you have a 0.022% chance of dying of COVID-19 of this age group, and then you can add them together, and you get 0.181, and that raises your chance of death by 12%, which sounds pretty significant. Like, goodness, raises my chance of death by 12% for the year. But you have to consider that the death rate combined is just 0.181%.
Do the statistics work like this? Like when we were looking back at Singapore, and you would just see that, oh my gosh, their numbers spiked, and it's like, oh, they went from 1 to 2 cases.
Yeah, they went up by 100% in one day. Oh my God. Right. So I thought that was somewhat interesting. All right, we got a few super chats here, and then we can get to some videos. Photog Mike says buffering. Everything seems fine on our end. Hopefully it's working now. Bruce says drink, drink, drink. Andrew says drink. Derek. Fauci said in the first couple of weeks that if we mitigate and stop the spread, everyone will be angry afterwards. It's natural. I understand. I do understand that idea. But what I don't understand was how was this so contagious a couple of months ago, and now everybody's just getting back to life, and we're rioting, and we're being in big groups and protesting and everything, and it's just not contagious anymore? It just seems so
we don't know
unbelievable.
That yet, right? Like what I keep going back to is the first time I think we were a little concerned was I'm getting upload speeds of like 9.
Okay, not great, but enough.
First time we were concerned was like a week and a half ago when we had Memorial Day here in the United States. And so I'm still keeping in my mind what happens in about a week and a half from today. That'll be about 3 weeks since Memorial Day. And that would be the time period you would think all those people that went out and just partied and celebrated like reopening would start to show their symptoms. So I'm still not completely buying our friend's analysis that, oh, it's gone and summertime, we're good. I'm still waiting, and with these riots, maybe I can add another week or 2 onto that. So I think in a month by the end of June, by the end of June, like around 4th of July will be a good time to know, are the numbers increasing greatly from...
Why is it going to take that long?
Because I think people are asymptomatic for 2 or 3 weeks. That was the whole thing. You get the virus, and then you don't start showing it.
It just seems like the United States has been opening up a lot more than the last few days.
Yes, but the places that opened up early were in the South, and they were more rural areas. I mean, you have Atlanta, but a lot of southern states said we're not shutting down, or we're going to reopen sooner than later. And there's just not a lot of people there. I think it's New York and LA and Chicago.
I mean, my parents, they live in Jacksonville, Florida, and they go shopping all the time, and they don't wear masks. They said nobody wears masks. So you would just assume there would be more of a spread. Maybe there is a big spread. We're still seeing 1,000 dead a day.
Yeah.
If we had 1,000 dead a day consistently, that's 365,000 deaths. That would be far worse than the flu, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like we're out of it. Look at the stats. The stats are still really bad. Let's see. Bruce says it's all about collecting DNA. Yeah, maybe that's the next conspiracy theory. Rivers says your video is lagging and out of sync. Just go back a few seconds and it should be better for you. Mojo Rogue says Patrick's chip has been activated. Love these theories. Photog Mike says all sorted. You were just behind in reading the chat. Cool. One other thing that I wanted to mention. Yesterday, one of the most wild stats that somebody said in one of the videos, they said, according to the Open Table app, Germany is back to pre-COVID levels of dining out. And I'm like, what? How is that possible? And if that's true, that's incredible news. I mean, that just shows like we're probably a few weeks behind, right?
What if that is true? Because I assume what you're about to say and what we saw from the chat yesterday was many people say it wasn't. What if the app, the dining app, just isn't used in Germany all that much, and it's like back to what it was, but that's not a good indicator?
Yeah, or they just, they did a big marketing push. Well, anyway, a lot of Germans reached out in the comments, they emailed me, they private messaged me, and they were like, that is not true at all. Many of the restaurants we go to are not even open. Many have gone out of business. Many have chosen not to open yet. And the ones that are open have all these social distancing rules. Mm-hmm. So it's not back at all to pre-COVID levels. So I don't know what that lady was talking about. Derek says, face masks and social distancing appear to be enough to prevent broad spread. Some countries are still in the upswing, though. Look at country level data. If that is the case, then that's great. I mean, I don't know that you can truly say that's the case when I talk to my parents and I talk to people back in Charleston and almost nobody's wearing a mask.
Yeah, that's the issue. Like I just saw a study from some organization was saying that 85% of the virus could be contained if we all just wore masks. But I just went up to get food in the plaza. 5% of people had masks. It used to be I've only gone to the plaza to get food maybe like 5 times in this whole pandemic lockdown. Every time, everyone's got masks. It's a ghost town up there. There's just a few people getting like their food and maybe they get a beer to have while they wait for their food. Tonight, no one had masks on.
Well, keep in mind that the other times that you've gone, there was no dining in. It was illegal.
Yeah.
But now people can eat at the restaurants.
Yeah, I didn't look. I was on the phone, so I didn't like look inside to see. There was a lot of people outside still.
On the tables outside eating, right?
No, I mean, I didn't see tables set up with people eating. Maybe there was like 1 or 2. Majority of people were just kind of hanging around. I thought they were also waiting for takeout. But they were in tighter groups, and they were Puerto Ricans, and then there was people here that I recognized, kind of our friends and stuff, but no one was wearing a mask. Very few, like the waiters and the people at the restaurant were, but I was like, wow. Things have changed really quickly because I feel like everyone in Puerto Rico, maybe it's because Walmart requires us to have a mask to even go inside. And then driving around, I see everyone in their car still wearing the mask. And I'm like, you don't have to wear the mask inside your car, right? But Puerto Ricans, it feels like everyone has heeded the message, the warning, and has said, I'm going to wear the masks. Whereas when I see what my parents and my sister are doing in different states, no one in South Carolina, no one in Alabama is wearing masks. All the stuff in Florida, nobody's wearing masks. So it's just strange to see people not wearing masks here because they've been very serious about it,
Well, I'm starting to learn that there was a huge underground group of people in our neighborhood that never wanted to abide by any of this. So they created their own secret WhatsApp groups and stuff, and they've been throwing parties and playing tennis at secret tennis courts this entire time.
Yeah.
One of my buddies was like, I've been playing golf every day. I just go out with my own golf cart and I go to holes where people can't see me and I just play by myself. And
playing golf is different though than like some of the other activities that they're involved in. We like group parties and stuff.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see like there's very educated people here. There's people with a lot of money. You don't have to be smart to have a lot of money either. But I always think it's like the ignorant people in America who are like, the virus is a hoax and stuff. There's a lot of people in this community who do not believe that it's as dangerous as it is. I mean, doctors, physicians, like people that are very smart don't believe it's that serious at all. So I don't know. My philosophy has always just been it's better to be safe than sorry if you can afford to be. And I can afford to be safer. But like Fauci's been saying, we got to get back to work eventually.
Derek says, county, not country. Sorry, I probably misread before. May still grow again if continued reopening reaches an inflection point. Absolutely, yeah. Only time will tell. Oh, here's some great news.
American Airlines says, bring on the summer. It's aggressively increasing flights in the U.S. next month after seeing demand improve in May. The U.S.'s largest airline plans to fly more than half of what its domestic capacity was in July of last year. That's a big lift from 20% in May and 25% in June. Overseas demand has been slower to return, but American will also increase its international flight schedule next month to nearly a fifth of its capacity last year. The airline will fly more than 4,000 flights on peak days in July. While that's double that of May, it's still down from its daily peak of 6,800. American says it has been operating a larger schedule than other U.S. carriers. American is boosting flights from New York, Los Angeles, Washington, Dallas-Fort Worth, and Charlotte. And as national parks and vacation spots reopen, it'll add flights to major cities in Florida and the Gulf Coast. The announcement fueled shares of American Airlines, lifting them 27% in Thursday morning trading, and those of other airlines.
Did you own that stock?
No, but did you see it today? I mean, you saw the title.
41% up.
41% up today. And what he said, just to be clear, is that American Airlines has been running at 20% of what they normally run back in April. They bumped up to 25% in May. Maybe I have it a month off. May was 20%. June, they expect it to be 25%. And by July, next month, they're going back up to 50% of the 50% routes or business that their stock should double. You've multiplied the number of flights by 2.
You would think. We seem to be having some uploading issues. It looks like our internet is slowing down again.
Oh no. You're gonna have to call the guy to come back out here.
I know. I wonder, was it ever really fixed? Or did he say he was going to fix it, but it never got done? I'm not sure, but it looks like we're kind of going in and out here. Let me get some.
Why do we have warnings here but not on the on-air?
So this is the cache. So the second it's unable to ship out everything, it's going to start filling up there, but maybe it's keeping up just barely right now.
I mean,
see, look, there we go. Cache is filling.
I'm getting 2.
Oh, it's really bad. What can we do? Let's go to black screen here.
Camera 4?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Camera 4, black.
Ooh, yeah, look at that. Hashtag, isn't this a hashtag?
Blackout or something like that?
Hashtag Thursday blackout. It's Thursday, right?
There you go. Let me read some of these super chats while we're catching up with our cache here. See, look at our data rate drop. We're normally around 5 to 6 megabits per second when we're streaming. When we put a black screen on, we drop to 0.14 megabits per second. So this should help us catch back up. Let's see. Leaky Bean says, I have been watching the show since the start, and this is the first time I am watching live. Thanks for the content and keeping me entertained. Well, thank you so much, Leaky Bean. Anthony says, y'all are more scared because you have been more locked down. I completely agree with this. The further from lockdown, the less scared you will be. It is Raya Trana. Now, no worries. What is that word?
Riot Rona. Not Corona, but Riot Rona. Riot Rona. Wasn't there all kinds of my Sharona, my Corona references before?
I mean, yeah, there were some jokes like that.
So we're back good on our cache. Do you think we can play an in-picture video on black? I know they all want to see our pretty faces, but...
Well, let's just see how this works.
The next video you should do is, well, I don't know what it is. Oh, it's the last one. That one probably should have come first.
U.S. airline stocks soaring today after the Trump administration announced it will ban Chinese passenger airlines from flying into the United States. Let's get to Phil LeBeau's got all the details. Phil.
Why would he do this, first of all?
Well, we're now at a major war with China, if we hadn't already been. And then 2, I guess he's still saying that we don't believe China's numbers and we want to punish them more, I guess?
Seems like China is one of the few countries that really has it under control, to me. I don't know that their death numbers and everything were accurate before, but we have footage of people living in China and Shenzhen and Wuhan, and
I mean, the strategy around the world has been once we have our country under control, we are not letting foreigners in. You know, that's been everyone's position. So I don't think it sounds that crazy to me. It's just maybe China or some of the Asian countries are the first countries to get over the virus and be clean enough to let them come back in.
Okay.
You can see where China and Singapore and all these countries are saying, like, we don't want any Americans, we don't want any Europeans coming in, so we just got it under control. But
I know, but the way that this sentence was said, it seems like Trump is just looking at China. Why wouldn't Trump just be banning all countries?
Because there's a trade war and you have to have
All right, let's
a
see.
penalty to pay.
Melissa, the U.S. and China have been negotiating for several weeks about the resumption of flights by U.S. carriers. We're talking about Delta, American, and United from the U.S. back to China. Remember that they stopped back in January. Well, they couldn't come to an agreement, so starting on June 16th, the U.S. has said, you know what, we're not going to let the Chinese continue flying in here. That impacts 4 Chinese airlines, and they are essentially, the Department of Transportation is essentially cutting service, passenger service, between China and the United States. Remember, they've been flying about 34 flights a week, Chinese airlines, from China into the U.S., coming into New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. Not a huge load of flights, but enough that the Department of Transportation has said, you know what, we're not going to do that anymore. So as you take a look at the ADRs of a couple of the Chinese airlines that do trade here in the United States, we're talking about China Southern as well as China Eastern. Keep in mind that these are the 2 largest airline markets in the world. In 2018, there were more than 8.5 million people who flew between the 2 countries. As for Delta, United, and American, look, they moved higher along with the rest of the airline stocks today. The U.S. airlines, remember, they suspended their operations to China back on January 31st. That's when President...
What?
You can see where they are. United Airlines is 61% down from its highs. American Airlines 58, 51.
Trump put the restrictions in on Chinese nationals coming into the U.S. due to COVID-19. And again, they've been negotiating, trying to figure out a way to resume these flights, how often they would happen, the schedules, et cetera. And as those talks dragged on, eventually the Department of Transportation said, enough's enough. We're just going to not let you fly here until we can get this worked out.
So it sounds like from that story that China was not letting our flights go into their country, and so this is a retaliatory ban on their flights being able to come here. But either way, like, things are escalating more. I don't know that's the worst thing, though. Like, I think it's okay to, like, stop travel from China and other parts of the world for a little bit longer.
Can't believe you'd say that, you racist.
No, it just seems reasonable. I mean, if they're not going to let us go into their countries, then maybe they shouldn't come into our country for a while. I don't know how long that's supposed to be, but...
Well, I've got a quick clip about the stock market here from Jim Cramer. And, you know, he just a few weeks ago said the upswing in the market makes no sense and he wouldn't put money in because it's going to drop. But obviously he was wrong because now everything's fine.
Apparently, America wants to do what Americans do best: shop, carouse, gamble, generally have a good time. When they're allowed to do those things, our country looks a lot more like the juggernaut it used to be, and so does the stock market. That's the only way to interpret the incredible pin action that we got today from ADP's incredible report. It's their national employment report, and it showed that private sector employment decreased by just 2.76 million jobs last month, when most economists were expecting something more like 9 million. That and some early positive data about the opening of restaurants, retailers, and casinos are how the Dow surged 527 points today. S&P jumped 1.36%. NASDAQ gained 0.78%. We're gaining back all our losses here, people. Now, you see this.
We're gaining back all our losses here, people.
Sure feels like that. I mean, my account is larger than it's ever been now.
How's that possible?
I don't know. It's possible, though. I think maybe mentally there's a mistake on my end, is that I lost some money and then I added a bunch of cash in. And now my account is larger than it's ever been, but I added cash when it dipped down. But it's not off by as much as I would have thought. I mean, it was scary. It wasn't painful, but it was scary. And then it just started going back up, and now I'm like, geez, I have like a lot of money that I thought I had lost back.
Yeah.
And I've been playing the game. I mean, did you see that post I had the other day, last night? It's an interesting story. So I bought these gun stocks on Monday, and one of them was this is how well I know what I'm doing, Big 5 Sporting Goods, BGFV. And I look at it last night in the shower. I'm almost ready for bed, right? I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I made like 32% on this stock? Didn't even know. Like, slipped my mind. I'm like, I gotta sell that. There's no way it's gonna stay up 30. Like anytime, I'm at the point now, I don't like to do these speculatory, emotional buys, but I feel like right now they're kind of predictable. Things shoot up and you sell and they crash down and then you buy. It's like these meme stocks, right? So this one I just bought simply because a buddy said, oh, if you're gonna buy gun stocks, you should buy this one. It's a sporting goods store. So I look at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's up 32%. I gotta sell. So I put in sell immediately when the market opens. I wake up at like 10:30 today, I look. It's down I think it was down 15 or 20%. It closed down 12, but played it perfect. And I was
Well done.
man, I wish I had put more money in that one. But, all the gun stocks are kind of flat. I'm finding though, remember I sold half of my stock in the middle of the pandemic and the crash.
At the worst possible moment?
At the worst possible time.
Yep.
And so I've been slowly buying back in. I don't know if that's a bad idea, but I'm like, Peloton, I feel like people are going to keep using that service. I watched Kristen use it. It seems awesome. People are falling in love with the instructors, and they do so much more than just the bike riding. And they're about to end their 30-day trial or their 3-month trial. They got everyone addicted.
Is she going to start paying?
Probably. I mean, she'll probably put a credit card on there, and I'm like, Peloton's probably going to do well. I bought a little bit of Love, a little bit of Southwest.
What is Love?
Southwest.
Oh, okay.
I'm watching all these other airlines pop, and I'm like, Southwest had the best position before. They had the least amount of debt. They're run cleaner than all the other companies. I mean, American Airlines was on the brink of bankruptcy. They still might pull some shenanigans. Who knows? But Love, Southwest was sitting there in a better position, and I haven't seen them do the rise. They also didn't fall as much. But I'm thinking maybe if flights are going to open up and double the flight paths in the next month, even if the virus comes back, there feels like there's a window there to ride the gains, I don't know. Maybe I'm making a horrible mistake. I'm buying at highs after I sold at lows. But, I don't know what else to do.
You wait for the real crash. That's what I'm doing, but
while
I'm
I'm waiting,
wrong.
we're still generating money. So I still have a large position of cash when I sold out. I'm putting a little bit more of that in. But at the same time, I'm also making more money from 2020 that's just sitting on the sidelines as well. I was listening to Peter Schiff today, and he was saying that, the best hedge is to buy gold, because it's not that you think everyone's going to flock to gold. It's just that the dollar is doing so bad. So I started looking up UUP. And if you look at the dollar, let's do a dollar in 6 months. In 6 months, the dollar has dropped about 2% of its value. You've lost money. If you've had $1,000 in your bank account, you've lost $20. Is that math? 2% of 1,000?
I think so, yeah.
So you've lost money having cash.
Yep.
In the same 6 months, gold up 16%. So that's an 18% swing between what the dollar has done and what gold's done. So even if you're not wanting to hold gold because you want gold, it's still better than holding the dollar, If you're just sitting on cash.
It could be, unless gold goes down in value, like it
Well, you can
has
say the
for a long
dollar's just
time.
going to jump up in value all that much?
I don't know. I mean, I am a believer in gold at the moment, but
Hertz was also up 82% today. You remember Hertz popped the day after the bankruptcy? It went up 50%.
oh my god.
82. That's one of the highest percentage ups I've ever seen.
But how down is Hertz overall from their high?
Oh, I'm sure it's bad. I can look it up while you cue the next thing.
Let's see, we got a couple super chats. Rio2Cat, China is only letting each U.S. airliner fly into each city in China once a week. So this is retaliation against China's move. Okay, maybe that makes sense. But it sounds like they are still letting us fly in, but once a week, but we're not letting them fly in at all. So I don't get that.
Hertz is down 92%. But they're up 80% since June 3rd. So
Right, so they went from 1% of their value to 2%, and that's 100% growth. Y River says, Lee, bump down video playback to 1.5x. Don't know what that means. Kevin, Lee, did you watch the video I sent you? Yes, I did. I'm going to respond to you. You sent me 6 videos. I think I watched 4 of them. They all seem to be the same lady. I've seen this lady before. I agree with a lot of what she says. Some of the stuff I feel like she's a little bit fantastical, but I'm going to send you a private message either tonight or tomorrow. I just want to finish all the videos before I respond to you.
Sounds like his videos weren't good enough to make the show.
I mean, we could talk about it briefly. I'm sure you've seen this lady. She's this angry, white, granny-looking lady, and she's very angry about racism and like every. She always says every white person is racist, and I'm like, why don't you just say everyone's a little racist?
Is that racist to say that every white person's racist?
Exactly. She's. That's why I haven't watched all of these videos. He sent me these like interviews with her that are very long. But she does these social tests with people where she'll have a bunch of people come in, she'll separate them by eye color, and then she treats the blue-eyed people like crap, and they get angry, and then she's like, this is how you treat black people. And then the blue-eyed people are like, but I don't treat black people like this.
Yeah.
And they're like, but even if you don't treat it like this is how society treats them, and you need to understand that and everything. And then some people change their minds, and other people get more angry. And I don't know. I've seen this lady doing her thing for a while. She was on Oprah years ago.
Well, I didn't get to finish this episode because I had to go get the food. But I was listening to the Peter Schiff show today, and he was just saying that like you can't blame this is not my opinion, but he was just saying you can't blame everything on racism because racism. There were more racists in America like in 1920, right? The Civil War was like 1860-ish, something like that. So there was many people in the 20s that were born during the Civil War with their parents probably owning slaves, and they probably grew up in a house that was pro-slavery because their parents might have owned slavery. Anyway, he was just saying that like it would be insane to say that racism today in America is worse than it was 100 years ago, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously.
And so he was just trying to make this argument that it's never been better than it is now. And at some point, you can't just keep saying 100% of people's bad fortune is because of racism. Because if it's 100% that, what was it back when racism was actually like you were property, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to go down that whole road and that way of thinking. Maybe he was going to wrap it up in a better way. It's hard to listen to a rich white guy talk about race in that way. But I think there are other circumstances that hold people down besides their race. You know, people of color are held down in other ways besides just their race. But did you see, I'm actually going to read this book, listen to this book called White Fragility. Is that how you say that?
Fragility.
Fragility. This was the one, did you see the story where the CEO of American Airlines carried this book on a plane yesterday? And he was on a Southwest flight, and people were like, what is the CEO of American Airlines doing on a flight for Southwest, on Southwest?
Okay.
And he was like, all of our flights are booked, so I had to get to Panama City Beach or something. And so a black flight attendant saw him with that book and had some inspiring story and took a picture, posted on social media, and it went viral. She had no idea it was the CEO of an airline company, you know.
Oh.
And so the book is called Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. 6 hours. I think if I could work out 6 times for an hour, I could be done with this book.
Okay.
But I'll give it a listen.
You can listen to it at 1.5, 2 times speed. Then you don't have to work out as much.
Sometimes. I can do that with videos that are a few minutes long, but when it's something I have to really digest, I have a hard time. Kristen's been doing this where she plays it at a fast speed, but then she also owns the book. So she's able to like read while they talk, and I'm like, maybe that would be the easiest way, because if you miss, you have to be actively doing stuff when you look at the book.
Yeah. Let's see. You know, I tried to look up more.
Coronavirus stories.
What?
You tried to look up more coronavirus stories?
No, I was trying to look up
can't...
more riots and looting videos and stuff, but it seems like, from just what's getting posted online and what I found on news sites, it seems to be like things are starting to calm down a lot. Here's a lighthearted clip of the police dancing with everybody here. So you can see there's lots of happy people going on, you know, into these protests.
One thing I hate.
What?
I hate that song.
I always like that
The
song.
Cuban Shuffle. Maybe because I've heard it at every single wedding I've ever photographed.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is the dumbest thing. And then I think you told me once that guy went on like America's Got Talent or American Idol or something, and then he sang that song.
I do remember something like that.
And they were all like, Paul Abdul is like, you sang your own song. You already had a go at being an international superstar.
There was something weird, yeah, where he was like trying out with his one-hit wonder song for some contest. I don't remember the details. And then we're still seeing videos like this as well.
And just so y'all know, these are the kind of motherfuckers that's tagging buildings, acting like they fucking black and making us look bad. Don't fucking do that bullshit. You putting Black Lives Matter on fucking buildings, tagging, and it's not black people. Don't fucking do that bullshit.
So I've seen a lot of these videos, and you know the best video that I saw, and I have failed you all by not recording it when I saw it, but I'm sure many of you have seen it and you can Google it right now. There is a clip of this white skater kid breaking some glass of a building. Have you seen this?
I don't think
And this
so.
black guy walks up behind him and just grabs it from him. And you should see this skater turn around and be like, what the hell? And then he sees how much bigger this dude is than him. And he cowers down and just puts his head down and just walks away slowly, just leaving his skateboard behind. And so when I see stuff like that, I think it's awesome. You know, it seems like the vast majority of people at these protests don't want to have any violence whatsoever. They want it to be 100% positive. And then they're actually brave enough to approach these people and make these videos and stop them from vandalizing. I mean, I don't know that I would feel comfortable enough to do that. I would be nervous that I would be about to be jumped by somebody, you know, if I tried
I've
to.
seen so many of these videos where these people are just beating the crap out of other people.
Yeah.
Now, normally they're other white guys. I haven't seen the Antifa white punks beating a black guy. That probably wouldn't look good for the cause.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be a little scary to do that. One thing I don't understand, maybe you can clarify this. Black people protesters are writing Black Lives Matter with spray paint. We saw the video of the guy I had yesterday, the story of Orlando, who goes through and is looting and he's everywhere, right? They are breaking windows and stuff. Not all of them, but some of them are.
Sure.
Why is it so offensive then to be like, if you're white and doing it, now like you're making us look bad? Is it a numbers thing? Like if 50% more vandalism is done and it's done by like white Antifa people, then that is bad, but the other percentage that's done by protesters that are color is okay? Like
No,
I
I would imagine they're not okay with that either, but I think, you know, skin color is a very easy thing to see. So if you're saying we need to be peaceful, but it's your brother of the same skin tone doing it, maybe you could have a conversation with them. But if it's somebody who's not even of your race doing it, then that's like the most easy thing to spot ever.
Yeah.
And so
Is spray painting, is that considered a violent protest, or is that if you don't break windows and you don't loot and you don't fist fight, is spray painting and vandalism, is that part
yeah,
of...
it's vandalism.
So that's not part of peaceful protesting?
I wouldn't consider that peaceful.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't either, but I don't know where the line is drawn, you know?
So Logan says, George Floyd found to have coronavirus post-mortem. I had not heard this, but I see that you have a video of this.
Roll the clip, Lee.
Well, new details this morning in the death of George Floyd. The county autopsy shows he was positive for COVID-19. That came from a nasal swab performed after his death. Now, the autopsy also showed Floyd's neck was compressed for 8 minutes, but it also shows that his death was due to cardiopulmonary arrest or stopping of the heart. An independent autopsy commissioned by Floyd's family lists asphyxiation from sustained pressure as the cause of death.
So who's getting the free 30 grand from the government because he died of coronavirus?
Well, that was my question, is does he... Here's a crazy conundrum that we're in, right? It's like the push button thing. It's like, did he die of coronavirus? And if not, he died from the police putting the knee on the leg, which we all agree with, right? But should he still get counted under the coronavirus deaths?
And
it's
if
like
he doesn't get counted under coronavirus death, do we have to go back and all the people that died in car accidents and died of old age and all this other stuff, do they have to be retracted as well?
How, like, if we were being mind controlled by the government, this is exactly the type of weird, it'd be the exact type of weirdness that they would make us deal with, you know? It's like, we're going to count everyone as coronavirus death, but this guy died with coronavirus, but we're not going to count him, you know? It's like very strange.
It absolutely is.
Have you seen...
Sorry, guys, we're going black on purpose just to keep up with the buffering here. Sorry about our upload speed.
Have you seen all of the... I don't want to say it's like character assassination going on with George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling Kristen, is George Floyd not the most difficult name to roll off your tongue?
Not to me.
No, I feel like it's very hard to say George Floyd. It's like your pronunciation is cut in. Anyway, the character assassination on this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a video clip that we'll try to play next as soon as this buffering goes down. But like, I saw that he's like in a porno. Not that like being in a porno means you should die. I'm not saying that, but like suddenly this guy's like in a porno, and I've been hearing that like he's had assault cases.
Yeah, people in the comments yesterday posted that he robbed a pregnant woman and held a loaded gun to her stomach, like horrific stuff. And I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. But I Googled it, and it is true. That was years ago, and I think he served his time for that and everything. But he wasn't the best dude. Maybe he was turning his life around. Again, nobody here is saying that he deserved what he got by any means. But, the other interesting thing that I'm sure is going to come up in this court case, if you watch the footage on the New York Times that shows like the play-by-play of exactly what happened.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things to me was that George Floyd was complaining he couldn't breathe before they even put him in the cop car. Do you remember that?
No, I mean, I've only watched the one video from the New York Times, and I was like, I've seen it now. I don't want to watch it again, but are you saying that he's saying I can't breathe before they ever do anything to him?
Yes. Outside of the car. I mean, he was on hardcore drugs.
That's something you noticed or something people are bringing up?
No. They talk about it in the New York Times. They talk about, like they said, he said multiple times, I think he said he couldn't get in the back of the cop car because he suffers from claustrophobia or something. And then he said he couldn't breathe before they even put him in the car. And then he was resisting getting put in the car. And then I think somebody pushed him in the car, and then the other cop pulled him out the other side. And that's when he put the knee on him, I believe. Okay. Feel free to double check. But I felt like that was the most interesting bit of information. It was like he was complaining about not being able to breathe before anything was even done, and will they be able to use that in some sort of defense? I am not sure. He
got arrested for home invasion of a pregnant lady, and did you say he served time in prison for that?
Yeah, he's been in jail a lot, I think.
I guess, I don't even know if I want to go down this road.
Maybe probably don't.
Maybe it comes down to being a person in the law, in the police force, but you can point to both of these guys and say like they have both some people say look how many complaints and he's had an assault, this cop did, but then you can look at Floyd and say like, man, there's a lot of stuff that he did too. Like on some level they're the same, but one's in a place of power that's a law enforcement officer, so you have to raise him up and say
but I think the bottom line is he didn't hold the gun to the pregnant woman's stomach and then in that moment the police put the leg on the neck. That was years previously. So you have to look at what was going down in that moment. He was high on drugs. He was acting crazy. He was resisting a little bit, but he wasn't violent by any means.
I think what I'm trying to say is some people would say that police officer should have been fired and he should have potentially gone to jail for the previous assault that he had.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
But then this guy went, I guess the argument is he did go to jail.
I think he served his time.
Out.
Yeah.
But I have a clip here of a guy just... This clip is long, and so I cut it really short, but he wants to say, in no way am I saying that Floyd is going to get off or should get off.
Not Floyd, the police officer?
Oh, yeah.
This one?
Yeah. But he brings up an interesting case because there's also other things that they found in the autopsy besides just COVID.
Okay.
That this cop killed George Floyd by leaning on his neck for 8 minutes and 43 seconds. But this cop may be found not guilty of third-degree murder. And I want to talk about why. Before I do, major disclaimer here. I'm not saying he should be found not guilty. Please hear me. I don't want any emails. Oh, Slater thinks that this cop should be not. Slater thinks this cop did a good thing. We preach nuance on this show all the time. The nuance here is that it's not that I think he should be found not guilty, but that I think he very well could be found not guilty. And the reason is fentanyl. I haven't heard a lot of coverage on this at all. People paying attention to the riots and all that stuff. But there were 2 autopsies that were done and released the other day. One by privately done, and then the county one. And I don't know the weight that each of them are going to have in the courtroom, but we can talk about the county. They're not that different. They're a little different in some ways, but they're not that different. But the county one we're going to talk about here says he died of cardiopulmonary arrest. If there's any doctors watching, I think that's different from a heart attack. I don't know why, but for some reason I think that's a little different than a heart attack, or it's like a type of heart attack or something. But he had arteriosclerotic and hypertensive heart disease. So he had like a thinning or hardening of the artery walls. But the big one is fentanyl intoxication and recent methamphetamine use. And I heard that and I thought, oh no. Defense lawyer is going to take that all the way to the bank. Let's talk about fentanyl. It's going to be a huge problem for the Floyd family lawyers. So there's as many as 30,000 people a year die from fentanyl overdose. So opioids are...
How many?
30,000. You know what fentanyl is, right?
Isn't it like the heroin?
It's a synthetic heroin that is so deadly that if you watch documentaries of it crossing the border, police officers handle it with gloves because it has the ability to like go through your skin and cause overdoses because it's like 10 or 20 times more deadly than heroin. So it's a drug. I mean, he talks about it a little bit more.
But is there any medical use for this?
No.
No.
I mean, they use opioids for pain relief and stuff, but I don't think fentanyl has any. It's like so powerful that it's beyond, I believe, what the medical fields would use it.
I thought I remember hearing that it was used in low doses.
I'm pretty sure it's a Schedule I drug, and Schedule I drugs are not. They have no medicinal uses.
70% of drug overdose deaths, and 67% of those deaths are synthetic opioids, and fentanyl would be one of those. It's one of the main causes of drug overdoses in America. I read an article on NPR. They say that it's more than 100 times more potent than morphine, and you put just a pinch of fentanyl into a bag of heroin, and you have a batch that's capable of producing 20 times the euphoria and pain relief of just heroin alone. We could do a ton of stuff on fentanyl. Maybe one day we will. The point is, it's very bad. It's very deadly. It mostly comes from China, by the way, and it kills people. So the first thing a defense lawyer is going to do to the jury is say, members of the jury, how do you know it wasn't the fentanyl that killed George Floyd? How do you know? Beyond a reasonable doubt, how do you know that it wasn't the fentanyl and the meth? Slater Crusaders, thanks.
That's another clip. So he was found with methamphetamine and fentanyl in his blood.
Yeah.
He was found with coronavirus, which he claims he had. This is where I don't quite understand the story. He had it 6 weeks prior, so maybe he had it and was asymptomatic, and then like nothing happened. But they did do a nasal swab after he died, right? Have we been talking this whole time about people not being tested for COVID after they die? If they didn't go to the hospital saying, I have COVID? Like, isn't it kind of rare to die outside a hospital and then get tested for COVID?
Yeah, but the fact that this guy's had 2 autopsies, I would imagine they were
a little more thorough.
Yeah.
But if they're thorough and now they're finding these methamphetamines and fentanyl, like a stimulant and a depressant in his body,
yeah,
that's not good news. And like this guy says, like, we all saw the knee on the neck. We all saw how horrific that was. But to find somebody guilty in the United States, you have to say without a shadow of doubt, without reasonable cause, you believe that he 100% did it. That's not to say that he won't be found guilty in a civil court, you know, that they can't, the family can't sue them. Like, it's just like the O.J. Simpson case, right? He was found guilty in the civil case, but he was found not guilty in the criminal case. But I just think, like, we have to prepare ourselves. Right now, like a day ago, all these charges came out. One was escalated, and then the other charges against the other officers. everyone in America was like, thank goodness justice will be served. Like, this is a good sign. But now that we know what's been in his bloodstream, and now if you're saying in the video he's also saying he can't breathe, you could very easily tie these things together and like...
Well, I mean, this story has become so similar to the story that I was talking about a few days ago with the white guy who I think was on fentanyl, was freaking out, called the police came over to him, pinned him on the ground, put their knee on him, he said he couldn't breathe, and then they suffocated him or he died, like who knows how he died, but there's video footage of this happening. I think this happened in 2018, 2019. I mean, the stories now are so freaking similar. And nobody heard about that case.
Why do the cops have to put knees on people's necks? You can't like put it on their back or...
I think,
That seems like you're just trying to smash someone's face into the concrete.
Yeah, but
like,
if somebody
seems a
is
little
resisting arrest, I think you should be able to use certain moves to make people uncomfortable, to have them give up their arms or something.
But he was already in handcuffs. So there's no
yeah,
need for
I
that.
do not feel like I said, I'm pretty sure when you watch the video, he was actually already in the car. I think they had him in the car, and then the dude pulls him out the other side of the car, so there's even less of a reason. And I haven't seen any footage of George Floyd resisting in any way. So yeah, in that case, it was stupid. In the other case of this guy on fentanyl, we don't get to see the whole story, so we don't know what was going on, but apparently he was freaking out on drugs as well, so they pinned him to the ground. And then he also died of suffocation. So these two stories seem oddly similar. Wyatt Ryan says fentanyl is used in healthcare as patches. I don't know what patches mean.
I just looked it up. So it is a Schedule II prescription drug, meaning it does have medicinal uses, and it's used to treat severe pain and manage pain after surgery. But, you know, like we said, it's 50 or 100 times stronger than morphine. But to be taking something recreationally like that, I mean, that's like Michael Jackson dying of propanol. You know, it's just like a sedative that, like, kind of rare to use outside the medical field. Fentanyl,
sedative?
Though, yeah.
You're making up crazy words right now.
Sedative?
You didn't. You said sedative.
Sedative?
That's
oh,
what you
I
said.
meant to say sedative.
Okay.
You know I'll make up some words.
I know you do. Let's see. This video, I watched this. I don't know what's going on here, so you'll have to explain. Let's just go full screen. So maybe before we can continue, are they carrying a body right now?
Yes.
And is this person shot? What's going on?
I was trying to figure out the story too, because this was one of the videos that Anonymous tweeted out.
Okay.
It was the top trending video this morning. I think what happened was police were shooting nonviolent pellets and hit this kid in the back of the neck and maybe killed him or paralyzed him. And these people are picking him up, I think taking him to a hospital.
Well, it seems like they're kind of taking him to the police. The police are in front of them right now.
Yeah, maybe this isn't a hospital, but they're trying to get him out and getting taken care of because he is in critical condition after being hit with a rubber bullet.
Oh, wow. So I would love to hear from one of these people who was in on this exactly what happened there.
There's a lot of information. I mean, I got done with dinner and had 20 minutes to get clips, so I tried to read as much as I could about it, but I mean, there's whole screen captures of dialogue that was happening and stuff, but the gist of it is that the police are still firing on people even when they're carrying a body to them or trying to get somebody out that's been injured.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know, were they shooting at them? Did those people who were carrying him get shot, or were they shooting over their heads at other people and we just heard sound effects?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not exactly sure, but it seems
We heard
horrific.
sound effects. You don't think those are the shots?
No. I think they're shooting, but I don't know if they're shooting at the people carrying a body or not.
I mean, they seem like they're all ducking. And
It did seem that way, yes. A couple days ago, we were mentioning that the defense secretary had kind of gone off on Trump and had said, the
this
way...
is Mattis.
Yeah, and that Trump had tear-gassed Americans so that he could take a picture holding a Bible in front of the church or whatever. Well, Trump responded, and of course we were expecting a ridiculous response from Trump. This is one of the more reasonable responses from Trump. It's
boy.
still ridiculous, but here's the whole story.
And over the last 48 hours, at least 3 former military leaders have made the exceedingly rare move of criticizing the actions of the current commander-in-chief. First, it was the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mike Mullen, who said that he was sickened by what went down in Lafayette Square on Monday night. And then last night, the former Defense Secretary, James Mattis, he put out what can only be described as a scathing statement accusing President Trump of making a mockery of the Constitution and of actively trying to divide Americans. The statement reads in part, quote, "I've watched this week's unfolding events angry and appalled. When I joined the military some 50 years ago, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Never did I dream that troops taking that same oath would be ordered under any circumstance to violate the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens, much less to provide a bizarre photo op for the elected commander-in-chief." Well, it was only a matter of time before President Trump responded, and he did by saying this. He said that James Mattis's primary strength was not military, but rather personal public relations. "I gave him a new life, things to do, and battles to win, but he seldom brought home the bacon. I didn't like his leadership style or much else about him, and many others agree. Glad he is gone." And it's not just...
So I feel like for Trump, that's one of the most kind, retaliatory...
I see what you've done here. So Trump says the craziest, outlandish things. So when he says something that just feels a little crazy,
like if
in
Obama had
comparison,
said this,
it'd be insane. Like, brought home the bacon? What is he talking
but
about?
not just that. Like, I didn't like his leadership style or much else about him,
So why
and
did
many
you
others
hire him?
agree. Yeah, and CNN played this clip when I think Trump was on the campaign trail, maybe, or maybe right after he was elected, about him talking about how incredible this guy is and how it's amazing that he got him to work for him and all this stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if I should be praising Trump for keeping it reasonable. I mean, this is still insane that our president is saying stuff like this, but I'm like, for you, Trump, that's pretty good.
Well, wasn't Mattis, he's been fired by Trump, but he was also fired by Obama? Did he serve in both presidencies under something?
Don't remember.
I think that's some people's argument, is that, like, this guy's been fired twice. You may have said, why in the world did Trump hire him when Obama fired him already, but I think that's what he's hinting at, is giving him a second chance.
Brad Fogel says, "I was given fentanyl shot for pain relief by paramedics when I fell off my semi-trailer last summer. Took the edge off the pain of my broke wrist." Yeah, it'll also take all your pain away, Brad. I've actually heard, I listen to the Adam and Dr. Drew podcast every day, and anytime people call in about having an addiction, Dr. Drew always asks if fentanyl is
part of it.
Yeah, and most of the time they're like, "Yeah, I'm on that." So I think it's one of the most dangerous drugs.
I went down this rabbit hole a few years ago on just seeing how people got addicted to drugs, and substance abuse. I'm always interested in Skid Rows and Methadone Mile and all these places in these towns, and I learned that a lot of drug addicts, they get on pharmaceutical drugs, but they actually have a preference for oxycodone versus what is the other big one that people take? Starts with a P, Percocet. For normal people, you're just oh, pop a Percocet. My doctor gave it to me. I broke my wrist. It's the pain goes away. No big deal. But if you're addicted to these drugs, they work on different pathways, ever so slightly different pathways, that you actually have a preference. And so there's a hierarchy of which ones people go for. So if you have the choice for, $10 to buy one pill, you will pick hydrocodone over Percocet or fentanyl over all of them because it makes you feel just ever so slightly different, you know?
Luckily, I've never really felt any addiction to like alcohol. I have lots of friends who they just have to be drinking all the time.
Yep.
I've never really felt that. Sometimes I'll feel like I'd like to kind of have the feeling of just kind of relaxing or something, but it's never this feeling like I need it.
You're the most anti-drug guy ever, though. Like, and I say that meaning you will take an aspirin or drink a cup of coffee, and you're like, I feel out of my mind. And I'm like, there's no doubt you don't like taking NyQuil, because like I take NyQuil and I love it. I'm like, I'm sick, I need it, and I'm about to pass out, and it's going to be amazing. Where you probably are like, dude, I've been drunk for 2 days on that NyQuil I took.
Sometimes I like that feeling too, but the problem that I have with the NyQuil stuff is sometimes it'll take like 24 hours to wear off. I'll feel it all the next day.
That's what I'm saying. Like for me, NyQuil works for like 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
If I sleep, I wake up. Maybe I wake up a little tired, but then it's gone. I move on with my day. You're like still out of it for.
Well, what I was going to say was, I remember vividly when I got my wisdom teeth out. And I don't know what they gave me, but I remember coming home, and my girlfriend at the time had come over to check on me. And I felt amazing. And it wasn't just like, oh, my body feels good. It was, I feel so happy. And I remember telling her, like, this is like the greatest day of my life.
What did you take?
I don't know.
You don't know what you did?
No, I got to find that. I got to find that drug, or I need to stay away from it for the rest of my life.
Well, how did you administered something, right?
Yeah, I mean, the dentist or whoever, oral surgeon, gave my mom something, and she gave me something. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, okay. So it came from her dentist.
Yeah, and but I remember that vividly as being awesome. And so that is scary to me, to think that stuff like that could be out there. And you hear the same thing from everybody, that at the beginning it's awesome, but then you crash hard, and then you start to have to take it just to feel normal. You'll never be able to get to that point again where the world's amazing and I'm so in love with you and look how beautiful the sunshine is, and like I just felt like everything in this world is perfect. But that's the only time I've ever felt like that in my life.
Yeah, what happens with drug addiction is your body starts down-regulating those normal receptors that your body produces a lot of these drugs naturally. I mean, they're not exactly the same. They're not patented drugs, but your body then says, well, I'm getting it from an outside source, so down-regulate the receptor. And then when you stop taking the drug, your body's like left with nothing to produce that feeling. And that's why you go into these great depressions. And the only thing that will get you back there is taking this synthetic drug that your body's not used to making. One is that the neurotransmitter's taken away, but also the receptor's taken away. So it's really difficult. I always feel like anytime I have major surgeries, I'm always scared to get on the drugs, Like, I'll take them initially because I'm like, I have to. I just came out of surgery. But if I can ever go halfway through the bottle, I'll try to do that. But then I keep that bottle, and I'm like, I have it if any other shit goes down, and not recreationally, but like.
Of course.
Well, I fell off that scooter and about broke my wrist a year ago, and I was like, man, I'm glad I had a couple pills that could like get me through that process, because here in Puerto Rico, it's not necessarily easy to.
The FBI will be knocking on our door tomorrow.
No, it's the DEA.
All right, so nitric oxide may help with COVID. Is this a theory from your father?
This is an old video from a month ago. This went under our radar. We didn't catch this one. But my dad's been like, do you know anything about... My dad doesn't know how to send me a text on the phone, so he writes stuff on my Facebook wall. And it'll just be like the most random message. And I'm like, oh, my dad wanted to ask me something, but can't just text me in private. So he says, do you know anything about...
What about private message on Facebook?
Oh, that's even worse than text message. He doesn't know how to do that. So he's like, have you heard of nitrous oxide curing or preventing coronavirus symptoms? And I'm like, no, Dad, I don't have time to go down this rabbit hole. But then minutes before the show, I was like, I need content.
Yeah.
Sure enough, there's like several. So here's one from LSU.
By inhaling nitric oxide into the lungs, this gas diffuses into the blood vessels in areas of the lung that are still open and communicating with the atmosphere. And it opens up those blood vessels a little bit more, and that improves the amount of oxygen that gets into the bloodstream. And therefore, the overall effect is an improvement in the ability of the body to get oxygen into the bloodstream. There is evidence to support that this gas in higher concentrations may actually be virucidal, to be able to inactivate the virus inside of the lungs. So the approach we're taking in COVID-19 is that not only use the gas as we do for other conditions, but to use it in much higher concentrations under careful monitored conditions in order to achieve this effect on inactivation of the virus.
Is this laughing gas?
Yeah. So I've actually never had that. My dad's always had a canister of it, you know, and I'm always like curious to try it, but sounds like good treatment to me. You know, if I have to choose like a ventilator with a 90% death rate or a ton of nitrous oxide, can I make the statement right now? Give me the nitrous oxide.
You can put that on your will or
yeah,
whatever.
like,
well, that wraps up the videos for today.
We went through everything?
Yeah, we did. It was a slow news day for sure. And I mean, you know, now that COVID-19's over, the rioting's over.
What is this unlabeled one that you have up there?
That one is just the clip of Trudeau. We can play it real quick. I mean,
I've been seeing...
Pi thought this was hilarious. I didn't think it was that funny, but...
You've been reluctant to comment on the words and actions of the U.S. president, but we do have Donald Trump now calling for military action against protesters. We saw protesters tear gas yesterday to make way for a presidential photo op. I'd like to ask you what you think about that, and if you don't want to comment, what message do you think you're sending?
So he takes a 21-second thought break before answering. And then he ends up answering with some political, like, we too have problems with racism in our country and blah, 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 blah. So
what is the 21 seconds? What's that symbolize? Is that the day he died, or what's 21?
Wait, you think there's a reason? I thought he was just trying to figure out what to say. I didn't know there was a reason behind this.
Oh, I don't know. I thought he took 21 seconds because it was a calculated thing and it was supposed to be 21 seconds of silence. Is it not that?
No, I've never heard anything like that. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
You did say 21 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like 20 seconds. It's like a specific 21 seconds. Right?
Well, I think it's funny that you would ask any politician any question and it would take him 21 seconds to respond.